Welcome. Welcome everyone to Miracles with a Twist Conversations. I'm Reverend Lori Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton, Goddi Lisa. And we're here to have a discussion around issues related to A Course in Miracles. We like to dig deep and unpack in ways that we generally don't have time to do during a live stream because it's a live stream. We don't do Zoom where people can be interactive. And so we found that people like to discuss the material after the live stream. And so this is our opportunity to present another way of looking at what was discussed and giving you the opportunity to then write to us and let us know what you would further like to explore. So we do that from an interfaith perspective, and it's based on A Course in Miracles, and then we'll just see where our everyday spirituality type of perspective takes us. So we begin with a prayer. Let's all begin by taking a nice deep breath. And when we exhale into our hearts so that we are all connected one to another. So we give thanks for this opportunity to expand our hearts and our minds. Kindred spirits, mighty companions, join together on this very sacred path, making a commitment to doing better and being better every day, waking up and saying, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? Who should I speak to? What should I say? Lead me. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak to me, lead me, guide me. Let all that I do be in service of you. We are here as disciples of the spiritual path, wanting to see each other as beloved brothers and sisters, opening our hearts, our minds, our voices. So we give thanks that we have an opportunity to do just that every day. Instruments of peace, compassionate responders, and immediate correctors of ourselves when need be. So let us move forward into this discussion with open hearts and open minds. And again, we take a nice deep breath together. And this time we exhale into the moment to be grounded, balanced, and joined together. So hello, Goddi Lisa.
Hello, RevLo.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Where are we
And
going
it's
today?
great to be here. Excuse me?
I said, where are we going today?
Well, we started out with chapter 14 in the teacher's manual. And as I've mentioned many times, anytime the teacher's manual is brought up, and even when it's not, that I love the teacher's manual. And I use it a lot. Just when my thoughts are all over the place and I just want to calm, I just open up to the teacher's manual. And usually their longest question or chapter, whatever you want to call it, is maybe 2 pages, but it's packed with wonderful things, but it's less tedious than the text. So I can actually read it without having to stop every 5 minutes and meditate on it and stuff. So we started out there. So I was very happy when you just mentioned the manual. I'm like, yes. So it's question 14. How will the world end? Now, isn't that a wonderful question? With all that's going on in this world, how will it end? Well, I really loved how our class went on Thursday, how it just it manifested into some really wonderful stuff and some affirmations of the course. I mean, it was just beautiful. And it's just interesting that would begin with, how will the world end?
Yeah.
So I just thought I would start out with just the first couple of sentences from the manual on how will the world end. It says, what has no beginning really end? The world will end in an illusion as it began. Yet will its ending be an illusion of mercy? The illusion of forgiveness, complete, excluding no one, limitless in gentleness will cover it, hiding all evil, concealing all sin, and ending guilt forever. That's a lot. And that, after I just got done saying that the manual is much easier for me to read than the text, that's a pretty heavy beginning. But what gets me is, can what has no beginning really end? And that's what I love. And that's what I love about the course, because it's all about this, any mess that we see, anything that we see or feel that is not loving, that is not bringing us closer to our connection with the divine, anything like that is an illusion. And again, we can run into the what is an illusion. This table is not real, but if I walk into it, it's going to hurt my shin. So what I like about this is that you hit on many different aspects of the very first sentence, which is, you know, it ends when basically it doesn't end because it didn't begin. So, and that to me is a pretty good way of clarifying illusion from a course perspective. It has no beginning, has no end, ergo, it's an illusion. Not if you trip over a table and it hurts your shins, it doesn't really hurt. It hurts. So I just found that really great. And one of the things that you said that really resonated with me was, because of course that first sentence really made me think, okay, no beginning, no end, everything's an illusion, you know that, but living it is the hard part. We can read it and it can make a lot of sense, but living it day to day with people that we love, with people that we don't particularly care for, with people that we love and we don't particularly care for what they think or whatever, or we think we're great and somebody isn't. That is the issue in the world of transforming, because transforming into non-illusion, for lack of another word, that the illusion is gone. And so one of the things you said, which I thought was really great, was to bring your hell to the surface. And to me, that is healing. And the Course tells us, hey, you're here to heal the world. That's your job. So all these thoughts kind of, you know, just transformed from one to the next and brought me higher and higher. And that bring your hell to the surface was so perfect, because to me, that is, okay, someone is ticking me off for whatever reason. Maybe I think I'm superior, maybe I think they're inferior, or I just think the world would be better if they thought more like I did, or I don't even know why I'm flipping out.
All right.
So bring your hell to the surface is, okay, you are not expressing love. That's not, you are not healing the world. So you are creating or adding to illusion. What are you going to do about that? And I've said this many times before, to me, it's about holding up a mirror. Why is it that this has me so bugged? And I mean that deeper than why does something that I may think is an ignorant statement or an ignorant action or a brutal action, why do I think that's wrong? That it goes far deeper than that. Why am I choosing, and it is a choice, choosing to take the low road? Why am I not defaulting to, I can see this differently? I can see peace instead of this. Why am I not doing that? And the more I can catch myself doing that, the more I will be able to address these characteristics that are simply not only not helping me in any way or helping the world in any way, it's hurting everybody and everything because we're all connected. So every ridiculous thought that I have, if I can, you use the term catch and release. If I can catch and release it, okay, I can keep going. But if I've got to ruminate about something, I have some work to do. And so I really, really liked that bringing hell to the surface. And I don't know why I liked it so much. Maybe it's because it's a powerful statement, bringing hell to the surface, bringing my hell that I created. God doesn't create hell. There is no hell. That's all there is to it, unless I decide that there's hell. So it's my hell that I have created, that I have brought to the surface. I may be blaming my misery on others, but it's my hell. And that doesn't heal anything. It doesn't heal anything. And it only adds to the pain and suffering of the world. And as the conversation that we were having, or in the class on Thursday, you brought up a book about, I think it was radical remission. Radical remission. Mm-hmm. And I was like, listening to you talk about this person who had been in end-stage cancer for years. And it appeared that it was spiritual practice that had helped her or enabled her, whatever it was, to be able to live a life, not exist, but live her life in this state that has taken the life of so many. And I was like, this is very interesting, because we were just talking about the importance last week of a spiritual practice. And then to hear about this person, and I did not read the book, so I'm just talking about it from my recollection, to hear about this person whose spiritual practice had just, as I understood it, put her in a place of peace and allowed her to live a life with something that doctors normally say it's a miracle or it's not going to happen. Well, it is a miracle on many levels, and it does happen. It just does. Now, and that then brought me to someone that I know very intimately who has experienced the same thing. She has been dealing with end-stage cancer for, I think it's at least 9 years. She was diagnosed 16 years ago with breast cancer. And it's metastasized to every part of her body except her brain. And she has gone through all kinds of treatments, some horrible that she said she wouldn't do again, and she didn't do them again. She has a wonderful doctor, and she can share with him, and he listens to her, and they make adjustments on her medications, they make adjustments on her nutrition, all kinds of things. And she just keeps going along. And she may become sad when she's looking forward to getting good news about some tests or something, and they're not what she had anticipated. But her doctor says, okay, this didn't work. We're going to find something that does. And she's like, okay, we're going to find something that works. And I got to thinking, she has, I'm going to say no spiritual practice but what is spiritual practice to anyone? It is what it is to each person. As I understand spiritual practice, which is taking specific time to dedicate to the divine and others, and gratitude and so forth, and learning from other people's experiences, learning from history, learning from the current things that are going on. And it dawned on me that she lives in peace amidst this stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. She has certain things that she focuses on that bring her out of this, like when she's in a really bad state, either physically in pain or mentally in pain, or both. She has things that she focuses on that bring her out of it. And and it's wonderful that she has a supportive husband, a supportive family, a supportive doctor, supportive kids. I mean, it's wonderful, and everybody is there to raise her up. And I got to thinking, that's not a spiritual practice as I know it, but she focuses. It's not just, oh, woe is me, I hope I come out of this better. There's a focus there, and it's so amazing to listen to her give us a litany of things that are going on in her body and have her concerned and have her doctor concerned, and her telling us what she's going to do about it, what her next step is. And it just, the word, and it was funny because you said you had to look it up, the numinous.
Yeah.
And it was funny because the word numinous, I had known, I had thought you had said a numinous, and I thought, is that anti-numinous? I wonder. But when I took a theology course many years ago, they said, you're going to learn a whole new language, be prepared. Numinous was one of them. And it's like an ecstasy, to me, a divine reality, a holy instant, all of that. That's what it is. And that's what my friend is getting in the way that she gets it. And that's all divine. It's all God. It's all grace. And so I'm not recommending to anyone that they drop their practice now and start just, talking to their doctors or whatever, more so than their spiritual director or themselves or God or whatever. I realized that spiritual practice is whatever it is to bring us closer to the divine, to peace in our hearts, so that we can bring peace to the world. And when she is at her absolute the saddest, painful, physically, mentally, the words that come out of her mouth are peace, positive, love, all that, even amidst tears. And so I just thought that by starting out with how will the world end, and it's all an illusion, we covered a lot. And this is why I like our conversations that we have, because it was meditating on Thursday so that we'd have a discussion today that made me see her, my friend, in this like, what do you mean she doesn't have a spiritual practice? It's just, I think it's the numinous, getting there. And however you do that, that's how you do it. And I've met so many people, and I would imagine you have too, RevLo, that say, oh, I'm an atheist, or I'm an agnostic, or I'm not a very spiritual person, or whatever. And you look at them and go, what? I see this, that, and the other thing, all these different beautiful attributes of God, these beautiful attributes of God expressed through this person. And I think sometimes that it's pretty interesting how people who do not identify with a particular religion, spirituality, or even acknowledge that they're spiritual, or they do say they're agnostic or atheist, whatever, are so beautiful to watch and have such a beautiful practice and set out such beautiful things into the world. So there you go. Thank you again for a wonderful journey on Thursday. I don't know if that's where you were going, but that's where I went.
Thank you, Goddi Lisa. I wanted to say a little bit more about this study, because what they said was it wasn't about religious practice and it wasn't about a specific spiritual practice. The part of the spiritual practice was exactly what you're saying about your friend, was these are people who found ways to find peace. They found ways to go inward to a place of quiet so that they could be peaceful within themselves. And maybe they also call themselves atheists or agnostics, because it's not about that. It's about how we live our lives. I mean, I used to work with someone who said, I'm an atheist, but I want to live my life like Jesus, and it's like, yeah, those are qualities we want to look at, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, regardless of whether we're saying, oh, I'm such a spiritual person or I'm a religious person, because it's really about how we live our lives. And we can live our lives with that catch and release mentality, like, okay, here comes an ego thought. I'm gonna catch it. I'm gonna release it, and then maybe I'll even take it a step further and dig deeper into my own self to find out, why am I having those thoughts in the first place? Those judgmental thoughts, those unkind thoughts, and work on transforming my own mind enough so that they don't even come around anymore. I mean, that'll probably take another 100 years, but
and the world.
But that we're heightening our awareness of ourselves. And some people might call that a spiritual practice. I think that we call it spiritual practice because we're dedicated to a path. We're dedicated to a path with a purpose. But it's just about being self-aware. I asked somebody recently, some friends of friends that I met, and they were talking about something, and it sounded like they were going into some religious talk that based on their scriptures. And I said, oh, do you follow that religion? They said, no, we just want to be good people. I said, we just want to be good people. It's like every day we just wake up and we decide we're going to be good people that day. And I was like, that's so great. And I think that A Course in Miracles is leading us toward that realization that the end of the world will end in mercy. Song of Prayer also talks about death being an act of mercy. And I think that what it's telling us is that it's a transformation of the world. I jotted down while you were talking, I jotted down The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
It's really about moving out of this good guys and bad guys, and we have war. I was listening to something today. I was listening to a podcast, and in the podcast they were talking about world hunger, and I thought that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that anybody should be hungry. You know, world hunger is a reflection of greed. There's no reason for anyone, greed and power. And so the transformation of the earth will be the transformation of our hearts, the transformation of our minds, the equality of races, the equality of genders, the equality of people, when we all start to see each other as being in the same plane and time of life for the same purpose. Yeah. And we help each other along, as opposed to, you know, trying to step on each other for one to get higher than the other. There was the lesson for today, I thought was an accurate and appropriate for our discussion. Actually, for where you took the discussion, because I didn't know where you were going with it, and here we are. It says, today's lesson, November 15th, lesson 319. I came for the salvation of the world. Here is a thought from which all arrogance can be removed and only truth remains. Arrogance opposes truth. When there is no arrogance, the truth will come immediately and fill up the space the ego left unoccupied by lies. Only the ego can be limited, and therefore it must seek for aims that are curtailed and limiting. The ego thinks that what one gains, totality must lose. And yet it is the will of God. I learned that what one gains is given unto all. And that's the transformation of the world. When we start realizing that, you know, what is good for me is good for you, is good for the next person, is good for the person who might make more money if I support them. You know, it's like, right. Why worry about those things when we can be more connected heart to heart? It's like that prayer in the Way of Mastery. This one in front of me is looking for what I am looking for. This one in front of me wants peace as I want peace. There's no difference between us. It's only the ego that establishes those differences. So that the end of the world will be as we know it. The end of the world is this world that is lacking mercy. And so the lesson for today, when it says I came for salvation, it's saying that we are the saviors. And it's saying it's not an act of arrogance. It's not a statement of arrogance. You know, what's arrogant is when we say, oh, I'm better than you, I'm more evolved than you, I vibe higher than you do, or, you know, I love more. And, you know, those are messages of arrogance, you know, like, well, you know, how do you know that? How do you know how much better you are than anyone, other than the fact that you're standing in a place of ego perception with ego eyes? So what the Course is telling us is that we are all equally capable of bringing salvation and receiving salvation. It's all equality. It's all what I give, I receive. What I give, I receive. What you give, you receive. It may not be from the place where I give it, but it's somewhere in there. There's an act of reciprocity, and it doesn't have to be broadcasted. It doesn't have to be shown or filmed or live, you know, live on Facebook. Look at this person doing an act of kindness, you know. And I think about that, and I thought about all these people who every day they risk their lives to save other people. You know, the EMTs, you know, they go out and they perform CPR, they perform chest compressions, they shoot people up with life-saving drug interrupting, you know, medications that help people to survive. And they don't go around saying, I saved 5 people today, I did this, I did that, look, I performed CPR. No, because it's part of their recognition that everyone has a right to life in that situation. And if we could just live our lives that way, you know, just I am not an EMT, but I am a savior EMT. You know, I am a salvation EMT in this moment as I interact with this person. Let me imagine that I'm saving their life, not like a proselytizing preacher on the street corner. Not I'm saving them for their souls, but I'm saving this moment between us so that instead of anger we have compassion, instead of misunderstanding we have connection, that we're saving ourselves from the disruption that is caused by the ego. And that is how we become saviors. Save the world in front of me. I might not get to all of that out there, but I can get to this between us. And if that's all I have today, if that's all I'm given today to do, then that's what I'm going to do. If I'm going to create some sort of spiritual CPR between myself and another person, then I am being used by the Holy Spirit to bring salvation into that moment. Not an act of arrogance, but an act of submission to do that, an act of surrender and submission to say, okay, use me in the service of the greater good of higher consciousness, of Christ consciousness. And so, yes, I can be an atheist and want to live like Jesus, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, and have those numinous moments, you know, within myself and with another person. And it could be so simple, just so simple, because sometimes we can be an active act of kindness where we actually do something. And in other times it could be an internal act of kindness where we stop ourselves from saying something or doing something that might be harmful or hurtful to someone else. So as you notice in the book, the question is, how will the world end? And it tells us mostly when it will end. It will end when our minds are changed, when our hearts are changed, when we have no longer a need for the attachment that we have for the ego's way. And so the spiritual practice that we have, if it can be just to find quiet and kindness within ourselves, for ourselves, and then extend that outwardly, then we are doing exactly what today's lesson is to bring salvation. So yeah, so thanks for bringing this up today and having us dig deep, a little bit deeper, because it's always going to be about our self-awareness and watching what we do as we interact with each other in the world.
Exactly. And you're that group of people that were saying, we don't have any spiritual practice, we just want to, be like Jesus. I'm sure that the more they find that, gathering together and talking about that and putting it into practice, the more it expands. And so, in fact, we know that it expands. What we put out there is received, like you said. It may not be received exactly where we were putting it, but it's received. And so that's such a powerful practice, and I think we can all learn from that. That we can take anything that goes on and make it a part of our practice. Now, we can do this intellectually, like think about it and do it, or we can let it flow, whatever. In the end, we will feel this beautiful peace, this holy instant, this divine moment, whatever, that we're not going to be so anxious to let go the next time. We see it coming in, we may want to catch it and hang on to it.
Right, yeah. And, regardless of whether you call it spiritual or not, as long as you are committed to wanting to do better and be kind to each other. I one time saw a post that somebody put on some group that I was in, and it said, if we're not discussing spiritual matters, I'm not interested. And people were like yawning, oh, that's me too. And I was thinking, that's not me. I want to talk about ice cream and cookies. I want to go places and do things, I can do those things with kindness in my heart, and with my mind committed to doing better and being better, and, still using those opportunities to perhaps have some spiritual discussion if it comes up, or just to be an example of how not to engage in the gossip, or, just by way of life. Yeah. Because those discussions sometimes sound a little spiritual bypassing-ish, like, oh, this is what I know and this is what you know, and let's just talk about that. And I'm like, well, do you want to go out dancing? Like, can we do other things? There's so many other things to life. We can do everything that our bodies are here to do, to enjoy the world, and do it with a consciousness of peace. Like, I can have these discussions, we're gonna have these real deep spiritual discussions, and then go home to your spouse and yell and tell them things about themselves. Well, then what was the purpose of that discussion? It's all about our practice. It's all about implementation. And we can do that implementation no matter what we're doing.
That's exactly right.
Going out and buy a new car, talking to the salesman, keeping it peaceful. Like, there's ways to do it. There's ways that we can do this. So, I mean, not to say that the spiritual discussions aren't interesting, they are, but they're specifically tied to the umbrella of practice. Right. We're not just talking. We don't want to just have, like, intellectual discussions where we sound like we know terms of things. We want to actually implement and practice and be a part of the change that is necessary in order for us to end the world as it used to be and enter into this new earth.
Absolutely. Very well said. Thank you.
I got a little tangent there, but thank you.
No.
Thank you so much for today.
I'm going to end with the end of, I started with the beginning of question 14, and I'm going to end with the end of question 14.
Okay, good.
To turn hell into heaven is the function of God's teachers. For what they teach are lessons in which heaven is reflected. And now sit down in true humility and realize that all God would have you do, you can do. Do not be arrogant and say you cannot learn His own curriculum. His words say otherwise. His will be done. It cannot be otherwise. And be you thankful it is so.
Thankful
Amen.
it is so. I am thankful it is so. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
See you Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday
Be there.
live on Facebook.
Absolutely.
God bless you.